We've got Julia Henschel in with us. We're going to be talking about Lockerbie College. Morning, Julia. How are you?
Good morning. Today, we're going to be talking about boys.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so you have little boys, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So the one thing about boys is if you're going to teach them, you need to love them. And if you've planned in your mind that you're going to love them because you've been put to teach them, you need to understand them. It's not that kids do the darndest things, Boys, they do the darndest things.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so let me give you this scenario. My nephew, I wonder if he's listening. He actually works very close to here, My nephew is in Mrs. Seeley's class at Winifred's. Mm-hmm. He's in, I think, beginners or prep 1, Miss Alleen's class. And sitting next to him is his good friend, Nicholas Voss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? And somehow, my nephew, James, is a little bit bored. So he decides it would be a really great idea to sharpen a pencil. Great bonus skill practice, right?
Yes.
To sharpen a pencil really sharp and place it under Nicholas's bum.
Of
so
course.
that when Nicholas goes to sit down, he sits on this sharp point. I think up to this day, that poor boy, young man, has a pencil point in his bum. Yeah? Now, boys do the darndest things.
Yes.
Yeah? And they see humor in the darndest things. Yeah? I mean, they're the ones who will laugh at the banana peel joke.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, how do we work with these boys? Now, if something like that was to happen at Lockerbie, my take on it is that the pencil point is the symptom, but it's not the real problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be going to my teacher and I'd be saying, I need to see your lesson plan because I need to know why this kid who obviously finished his work wasn't kept busy.
Mm-hmm.
Or was it that he was set a task that he was unable to start?
Right.
Or he was looking for feedback, which he was waiting a bit too long to get. Now, it's very difficult to do that if you're in a class of 20 or 25 or 30 or 32 or even 12.
Yeah.
But when you're in a class of 4 or 6, like our kids are at Lockerbie, I don't look at the symptom. I look at the problem. The problem is that child hasn't been differentiated for. There's a saying, what the devil finds work for idle hands to do.
Yep.
That is, the devil finds work for the idle hands of boys to do. Which brings me to the point that with boys, you've probably found this with your own kids, you got to keep them busy.
Yeah.
You got to keep them busy. I mean, I've been teaching for 25 years. I've never yet come across a boy who is happy to sit still. Even the ones of 15 years old. I've never come across a boy who is at his most productive sitting at a desk or a table, listening to what you have to say and following every instruction. Yes. Yeah? I've never found a boy who doesn't like to do. They may to some extent be reflective learners in that it takes them a little while to process what it is you've been talking about or they've been doing and that they actually get it really clearly. So clearly they can teach it back to you. But boys, for the most part, love to be active.
Yeah.
Really, really love to be active. So what I want to talk to you today about is boys, play, and Lego.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? For decades, it's been a prevailing belief that girls are at a disadvantage in the classroom, especially when it comes to certain subjects. Okay, the great minds of our age are in physics, biology, and chemistry, and they're all men.
Yes.
That's not true. That's just not true. But the classroom gender gap may not actually be what you expect because it's more likely these days for male students not being able to keep up with their female counterparts. And I think we've been seeing that in Barbadian schools now for a good while. So there's an education reporter called Richard Whitmore, and he's the author of Why Boys Fail. And he says that the problem starts really early, which we know. It's most notably affected by 2 indicators, the rising aspirations by female high school seniors, while those of their male students stay flat. So the girls more often jump into their passion, what they want to do in their life earlier than the boys, and the lagging representation of men in college graduation classes. So in the US, the graduates at universities, some of the stats are 62% female. At UWI here, it's higher than that. It's around 75% of our graduates are female.
Wow.
Now that's shocking.
Yes.
Because what are our males doing?
I was just going to ask you that question. Where are our guys?
Are they in trade? Which, don't knock trade because
No,
I have never met a poor electrician who doesn't have a great vehicle.
Listen, I said that
Seriously?
to someone recently. I said, if I could remarry, it would be like a tradesman to just fix everything for me
Everything.
because
Oh
it's
my
such
gosh.
a huge skill.
I know. So, and
I'm
I
just
mean,
kidding, husband. I'm just kidding, husband. By the way,
she's really happy with you, right? But
Absolutely.
please change that light bulb. Yeah. So I don't know if they're in trade. I don't know if they're in sports. I don't know because if you want to go to university, your academic pursuits have to start early.
Yeah.
And boys are highly competitive. But are we, they say that don't judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree. Are we asking our boys, not saying that they're fish, but are we asking our boys to if only we were asking them to climb trees, right? But are we asking them to do something that's not inherent to them? And then they're falling short. One of the things about boys, well, about all kids in general, but I say to boys a lot, if you don't set them up to succeed, they're going to not try. And kids, they can smell when they're going to fail at something. And they're going to step back and not try. They'd rather not try.
Absolutely.
You know what? And you're going to notice them. You're going to notice them as a daydreamer who's staring out the window or the one who is kicking the table or whatever. I mean, at Lockerbie, we're great because our kids sit on Pilates balls. They have balance boards that they fiddle with or fiddle boards that they have with under the table and that kind of thing. But, when you have a class of 6, you can have one child sitting on the ground or one child bouncing on a Pilates ball and 2 children sitting at a table writing and so on. And you know what? Whatever it takes to stimulate that mind to think, that's okay. That's very much the learning of the future. But boys, they particularly need to move and to do. So boys they've definitely got it hard. And we've got to make it easier for them if we're going to produce the leaders of tomorrow that their intelligence and ability and talent actually indicates that they will be. But we're not providing the opportunity. This guy Whitmore says that parents should keep a close eye on what's going on at school if they want to prevent problems. If your son is struggling and the teacher says, oh, don't worry, boys will always get a slow start and they always catch up, that should set off your alarm bells. Don't assume that all of a sudden boys are going to catch up. Don't assume it. Because you know what? The further that gap is, the longer it's going to take to restore. Correct? Okay. So then we have this great lady called Peg Tyre. She wrote The Trouble with Boys, a surprising report card on our sons, their problems at school, and what parents and educators must do. She agrees and she says, watch out for teachers who complain that boys are too active, who clamp down on boys' fantasy play, who allow boys to languish in reading and writing, who chastise boys for poor organization or bad handwriting. Because you know what? You put a group of boys outside with a bunch of wood and the dangerous thing called a nail and a hammer, and you tell them, you have my blessing in building a tree house. See how they organize that one.
Exactly.
See how they'll organize that one, yeah? So the thing is that we're not really giving boys tasks and scenarios in which those tasks take place that they can really succeed in. And then when we a while back, we had this most amazing Minister of Education. Can't remember his name. Anyway, he was saying that up to the age of 14, kids need to be in academic pursuits and then they need to branch off. And they need to go into trades or they need to go into whatever. And that was all kibosh as a bunch of old Huey, everybody, needs to go to university and so on. But I think he had the right idea. He had the right idea. You take boys with all their intellect and their skill sets and their talent and their natural ability, and you get them to start designing and creating. And you're then creating entrepreneurs and highly organized people and people who work in teams. And we're just not giving boys what they need to succeed. We got to let them move. We've got to let boys move. Yeah? And they're going to need, if you do want them to sit down and buckle down and actually just focus really hard for the short period of time to sort of get this concept into their head, they're going to need smaller classes and closer attention. Right now for my 11 plus class, I have 2 girls and 3 boys. 5 kids. 5 kids are manageable, right? Nope. This morning I decided that I'm splitting it. And I have 2 boys who I'm going to split into one group, and another group is going to be 2 girls and the other boy. Not because they have different intellectual abilities, but because I need them to do different tasks. And I need them to focus in different ways. And I need them to collaborate in different ways. So anybody out there who has their child in an 11 plus class of 20 kids, don't kid yourself what you're getting. Because if I, after 25 years, can't deal with a class. Well, I can deal with a class of 5, but they're not getting what they need to get from me. And I'm splitting my class into 2 and 3.
you're making sure
you all
that
need
they
to
get-
seriously think about it. Yeah? So boys and play. So let's go on to play. Is play on its way out? Most people would say that play is an essential part of childhood. Romping around the house, building imaginary worlds, exploring the outdoors are all elements of play. And we all remember that from our childhoods, right? We remember putting, I don't know if you're too young, but there was nothing to do, right? You weren't allowed to turn on the TV without permission. You certainly couldn't go and talk on the phone.
Yeah.
You weren't old enough to have a tape recorder yet. And even if you did,
No
you didn't have access
computers.
to any records to actually record anything on the tape recorder. There were no computers. There were no cell phones. So what did we do? We played. Okay? We played. So we would put 2 dining room chairs together. We'd rip a sheet off the bed and we'd make a tent.
Yeah.
And we'd go in there. I mean, kids are always hiding from their parents. Well, if you want to hide from your parents, get a tent.
Yeah, make a tent.
Make a tent, right?
They'll
and we'd go in
appreciate
there
it.
and we'd play. And you know what? You had your arguments and you had your collaborations and you had your schemes. I mean, what are some of the things we did? We'd put on plays for our
Yes,
parents.
yes.
You used to do that?
I used to do that,
Put on
yes.
plays. Think of all that imagination and creativity. Yeah? Play needs to happen. So according to a new report from the American Academy of Pediatrics, what children really need for healthy development is more time for old-fashioned play. They're simply not getting enough of it. This deprivation affects mental and physical health as well as cognitive and social capacities. Make outdoors a must. In most neighborhoods, it's still safe to go out. Make outdoors a must. Your kid wants to come home, they finish their homework, and they want to go on to what? Computer? No. Head outside, play road
Yes.
tennis. Ooh, you don't have a racket, use your hand.
Yeah.
Play handball.
Make something
yeah?
up.
Don't overschedule them with adult-directed activities. So most elementary age kids are going to need an hour or 2 of play a day. Limit television and computer access, which we all know. And you know what, parents? It's not your job to be your child's social secretary. Take away everything and tell them go outside and play. Play.
Yeah.
I used to tell my children, off to Dolly House. I don't want to see you for 2 hours. Well, what are we going to do out there? Play. Yeah? Come on. Take your power back. Tell them to go and play. And create a community. If you have other kids who you can invite over so your kids can play. You've got to supervise them. But try and set the scenario so they play. The last thing I want to talk to you about is if there's one thing you should invest in for your children, especially boys, is Lego. Listen, go on
Yes,
to
we're at
Facebook
the
or whatever,
Lego.
eBay or whatever, and buy up all those baskets of Lego that have 1,000 pieces
Oh,
that used
those
to make
delightful
wonderful things.
thousands
Yeah?
of pieces all over the floor.
Because more and more kids are having social communication difficulties. How do you negotiate a disagreement with a friend, etc.?
Yes.
And when you put a couple of kids with a huge box of Lego and they're going to build something, it is amazing what you get. There's now actually a new play therapy called Lego-based therapy. Can you imagine? Lego has now become therapeutic. Tell a parent something they didn't know, right? So, listen to what they actually get out of it. Let me read this for you. One of them can be an engineer who oversees the design and ensures the instructions are followed. One can be a builder, putting them all together. See all the collaboration and the conversation that has to go on? One can be a supplier who's keeping track of which size, shape, and color bricks are needed and passes them on to the builder. Meanwhile, the engineer is still checking things. The director ensures the team is working together and communicating well. Now, what you'll notice is put a budget churn together with a Lego. All of a sudden, they start communicating. I need this piece. Could I have it, please? Oh, no, give it to me. Okay, you don't want to give me? Well, I'll swap it for this piece.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you see all those litigation and mitigation and all those wonderful skills coming out. So, parents, boys, if you want to give your child something really meaningful and healthily disappoint them in the process,
Yes.
next birthday, do not give them a phone card and do not give them a new phone and do not give them extra hours of internet access or game access or whatever. Give them a box of
Lego.
Lego. So today's been about boys, games, and Lego.
It really, really spoke to me because I have pieces of Lego probably ingrained into my feet from just being all over my floor.
Yeah. And a lot of kids have Lego and they don't use it. And you
Yeah.
know what? Imagine if we had some collectors out there who just said, give me all your old Lego.
Yeah.
Yeah, there have got to be lots of parents who want to just get rid of Lego,
Yeah.
right? please don't throw out your Lego. If anybody has Lego they want to get rid of, Lockerbie wants it.
Yeah.
We actually want
Putting
it.
out the call for Lego.
Oh my,
absolutely.
we're putting out the call for Lego. Please, we'll come and collect it.
Absolutely.
So anyway, have a great week, everyone. And there's going to be lots of exciting stuff to talk to you next week about. It's going to be all about careers, the jobs your kids are going to do in the future, and how your answer might lie with Lockerbie.
Oh, very nice. Thank you so much, Julia, for joining me this morning here every Thursday on Y103.3, 7:45 to 8 o'clock.